So I sort of, approached my dramaturg, Sarah Mariam. She's been writing for me for the last 3 years. And she and I began to think about the writing, what kind of shape this writing would take. She began to write. And this was still, I think, June or July last year. So this was about 6-7 months before the show premiered. I knew that because the theaters were shut, I had to make this work digitally. And my inspiration actually came from the Kawadas. There's a form in Rajasthan called the Kawad, which basically is it's a small wooden box that bhatts carry. So the storyteller is called a bhatt, and they carry these small wooden boxes, and these wooden boxes have doors that open out, and the whole wooden box keeps opening out till you reach the shrine in the middle. And with each kind of door that opens out, there are scenes that are depicted, small little miniature sculptures that are there of gods and goddesses. The Ramayana is told this way. Several Upanishad stories are told this way. And I've seen that as a young boy. I've seen this kind of storytelling, and I thought how interesting it would be to actually think of a digital adaptation of this idea, where once you sort of land into a virtual world, it just keeps opening up like a Kawad box, revealing the story further and further and further and further, till you have reached somehow the central shrine or the central narrative or whatever that sort of holds this piece together. And then one of the things that I often wondered when I saw the Kawad performance was that, having watched it to the end, I was fascinated by how they would now shut the box. It has to be shut in that particular order. No, you can't. A stranger just can't come in and shut the box. There is a way to open it, and there is a way to close it. So I think this for me then became the inspiration to begin thinking about a digital city which will host this sort of writing, this fiction. And I was also sure that I wanted this to be to resemble epic theater, which is that everybody knows the story from the start. If you come to the show, right in the beginning, it says that there's a poet that's gone missing, and then you will meet characters who will talk about him, and that's about it. That's the plot. There's nothing more to this. I don't like to do plot-driven theater or plot-driven storytelling. Scene after scene, a story develops and it reaches a conflict, and then there is a sort of a dramatic ending that happens. I don't like that kind of theater. I like the kind of theater that I've seen growing up, which is the Ram Leela, which is that everybody knows the story, so we're not watching it for the theatricality or the drama, but what we are watching it for is how it's being told. The little things that happen while we watch it, and how a story, the same story, can be told from so many different perspectives. So if you look at Sanskrit drama, for example, you would find that the Mahabharata is told from Duryodhana's perspective in Urubhangam, and that's a perspective that we haven't ever heard before. Or in Kuriyattam, Surupnakha has an episode in which she performs and talks about Ram and Lakshman, and that is a narrative that we just haven't ever seen in Ram Leela. So for me, I think I'm fascinated by when I direct and when I create theater, that it should sort of open up perspectives around the same incident or around one event. So we know the event, but how people remember it, how people relate with it, what people do with it is something that binds the fiction together. And so that is exactly what we did. So I, sat down with Sarah and she started writing, and I said, look, I mean, keep in mind that imagine that you're in a strange city and you're walking through its strange lanes and back lanes and neighborhoods, etc. And all you can hear is murmurs and whispers that are coming out of the windows. And this is how we're going to build the city. So she started writing character after character after character who's associated with the poet, with the missing poet. There's a wife, there's a daughter, there's a sort of a rival poet who's jealous. There is a colleague. There is a neighbor. There are students. There are fans of his work. So the poet's neighbor, sort of the universe, is his neighborhood in the city. And so we meet all these characters, and each one tells us something surprising about the poet. And sometimes the recollections are also very contradictory. So someone remembers the poet as a very humble person, another one remembers the poet as a very arrogant one. And so as an audience member, then you have to sit and choose which, can, or are all these recollections one single poet, one single person, or are they talking about different poets? And are these people sort of, from different times or different periods, talking about different poets, but all of these poets have met with the same fate, which is that they have disappeared. So you can sense so the epic scale at which I, wanted to sort of create this and produce this. So Sarah wrote about, I think, in all about 35 or 40 characters in the first draft, and then we sort of whittled it down to about 30 characters. I knew, and this is also part of my the politics of my work, is that I never offer the privilege of watching and knowing everything about the play to any single audience member. So whether, I did Rag Darwari, for example, which was in a physical auditorium, then The Last Poet, which is digital, I ensure that the play is never complete for anyone. I would like people to come back and watch it from another perspective and watch another part of it, so that the work keeps opening up, just like an epic. It just keeps opening up to different points at which you encounter it, from different perspectives you encounter it, and so it begins to mean different things at different times. At that point, I started to work with coders and programmers as well. So I have a team of programmers who then built this digital city. That was a separate kind of, what kind of code to use, how complex this code is going to be, and also how do I weave in audience interaction. At the same time, I think a lot of theater last year had begun, which was Zoom theater. So you logged in on Zoom and you sort of watched people talking. You basically watched talking heads, and as an audience member, you could just get up and leave, and they won't even notice if you're not there. And I didn't want that to happen. So one of the layers of interactivity that I built into the work is that the audience decides what to watch next, which title to watch, which scene to watch next. And so if you voted for a scene that got the majority vote, then that scene would have been played. If you didn't vote for that scene and you voted for some other scene, you might want to come back to see if the scene that you voted for is playing again or not. Even I don't know. So every time the show happens, I don't know in what order the show is going to happen. I don't know which scenes are going to be played today. Even the actors don't know. And sometimes after the show, we have like a cast and crew meeting, and actors are quite disappointed that that they got to play their least favorite scene thrice in the show, and they didn't want to play it, but the audience kept asking for it. And so all these kind of sort of surprising and unpredictable things keep happening in the show. And also, because I have an interdisciplinary practice, I didn't want this just to be a live performance. So there are a few films that are also part of this piece. There is an entire sound design that pervades the entire universe of this fiction, and I want the audience to sort of have I want the screen to come alive, not to just be this two-dimensional screen, but to come alive in the sense that it sort of invites an immersion into this world. So these were the things that sort of went into the making of the piece. Sarah wrote this for about, I think she took about 6 or 5 months to write the entire piece. The coders took about 4 months to develop this entire virtual city. The actors came in just a month before the show, and I started rehearsing with them. And then we opened it.